The starship corridors hummed with quiet efficiency as Park Yanwoo walked alongside her most cherished companion, Nova. The bioengineered creature moved with a fluid grace that defied traditional understanding of life, its iridescent tendrils shifting colors with each subtle movement. Nova wasn't just a pet. It was a living testament to humanity's extraordinary scientific achievements. Yanwoo had rescued Nova during a deep space exploration mission 3 years ago. The creature had been found in a damaged research pod, the sole survivor of an unknown experiment. Most scientists would have cataloged and studied it, but Yanwoo saw something different, a sentient being capable of profound connection. Their current mission involved a diplomatic engagement with the Galactic Collective, a powerful interstellar alliance known for its rigid protocols and cold diplomatic approach. Yanwoo's role was simple: represent human interests and maintain peaceful relations. The meeting chamber was a sterile environment of metallic surfaces and sharp geometric designs. Representatives from various star systems sat in calculated positions, their body languages revealing centuries of complex political relationships. Nova remained close to Yanwoo, its adaptive camouflage blending seamlessly with her dark uniform. A high-ranking official from the Galactic Collective's Central Command approached. His movements were precise, almost mechanical. Something about his approach made Nova's color pattern suddenly shift, from calm blue to an aggressive crimson. Before anyone could react, a guard standing near the official made a sudden, violent movement. A standard-issue energy weapon emerged, pointed directly at Nova. Yanwoo's reflexes were lightning fast, but not fast enough. The energy pulse struck Nova. In that single moment, everything stopped. Nova's body, a marvel of genetic engineering and cosmic adaptation, simply dissolved. Not dramatically, not with a dramatic explosion, but with a quiet, almost peaceful disintegration. Iridescent particles scattered across the pristine floor, leaving behind nothing more than a faint shimmer. Yanwoo stood frozen. Her companion of 3 years, her closest friend in the vast emptiness of space, was gone in less than a second. The Galactic Collective representative didn't even pause. "Apologies for the minor disruption," he stated coldly, his tone suggesting Nova was nothing more than a technical malfunction. Something changed inside Yanwoo in that precise moment. The calm, professional diplomat vanished, replaced by a core of pure, calculated fury. "Minor disruption?" she repeated, her voice unnervingly calm. No one in the chamber missed the dangerous edge in her tone. The other representatives shifted uncomfortably, sensing the massive emotional tsunami building beneath her controlled exterior. The guard who fired the weapon stood motionless, his expression blank and emotionless. He showed no remorse, no understanding of what he had just destroyed. Yanwoo's hands, which moments ago had been gently stroking Nova's adaptive skin, now clenched into tight fists. Her eyes, previously warm and exploratory, now burned with an intensity that made seasoned diplomats instinctively take a step back. Nova had been more than a pet. It had been a scientific marvel, a living proof of human potential, a companion that understood complex emotions and shared a bond beyond traditional biological limitations. In that single moment of destruction, the Galactic Collective hadn't just killed a creature. They had challenged the very essence of human connection and empathy. The room remained silent, thick with unspoken tension. Yanwoo knew exactly what would happen next. This wasn't just a personal loss anymore. This was a declaration of something far more significant. This was the moment everything would change. Her mind was already calculating, planning, transforming grief into a precise instrument of retribution. The Galactic Collective would learn a critical lesson. Humanity does not forget, and humanity does not forgive when its own are harmed. Nova's final particles continued to shimmer on the floor, a subtle reminder of a life ended too quickly and a revenge yet to be unleashed. 3 weeks after Nova's destruction, Yanwoo transformed her personal quarters into a complex intelligence hub. Data streams flickered across holographic displays, each screen revealing intricate details about the Galactic Collective's infrastructure. Kim Jae-sung, her most trusted intelligence analyst, worked silently beside her. His fingers moved rapidly across quantum interfaces, extracting hidden communication patterns and strategic vulnerabilities. They had become a team united by a single purpose, understanding their enemy completely. Their communication networks have predictable disruption points, Jae-sung muttered, highlighting multiple star system junctions. Each red marker represented a potential weakness in the Galactic Collective's defensive grid. Yanwu's approach was methodical. She wasn't seeking immediate revenge, but a comprehensive strategy that would dismantle the entire system. Nova's death had taught her that emotional responses were ineffective. Cold, calculated planning would be her weapon. Lee Hyunwook, a technology specialist with a reputation for unconventional solutions, arrived with specialized data encryption modules. His equipment could penetrate even the most secure communication channels of the Galactic Collective. Their central command uses quantum encryption, Hyunwook explained, but every system has a backdoor. We just need to find it. Days turned into weeks. The team worked in shifts, mapping every possible route of attack. They weren't just planning revenge, they were designing a systematic dismantling of an entire galactic power structure. Yanwu's personal quarters became a war room. Star. Charts, communication logs, and strategic simulations covered every available surface. Photos of Nova remained strategically placed, a constant reminder of their ultimate motivation. Jae-sung discovered something critical. The Galactic Collective's resource distribution relied on a complex but fragile supply chain. Disrupting specific communication nodes could create cascading failures across multiple star systems. One precise strike could create a domino effect, he explained, showing complex probability matrices. They won't just lose resources, they'll lose confidence. Hyunwook's technology provided another breakthrough. He developed specialized infiltration algorithms that could slip through the Collective's defensive firewalls undetected. These weren't just hacking tools. They were digital ghosts capable of gathering unprecedented intelligence. Yanwu reviewed each piece of gathered information with surgical precision. Her emotional pain had transformed into a weapon more dangerous than any traditional military strategy. The team identified 3 critical weaknesses in the Galactic Collective's structure. First, their communication relays depended on centralized quantum transmission points. Disrupting these would create massive communication blackouts. Second, their resource distribution followed predictable mathematical models. By understanding these patterns, they could target specific supply routes. Third, their diplomatic protocols had rigid response mechanisms. Predictability would become their greatest vulnerability. We're not just planning an attack, Yanwu told her team. We're designing a complete systemic collapse. Hyunwook developed infiltration protocols that could extract massive amounts of data without triggering standard defensive mechanisms. Jae-sung mapped potential response scenarios, creating countermeasures for every possible defensive strategy. Their work was more than revenge. It was a calculated surgical strike designed to send a message. Harming humanity's companions would result in total systemic destruction. Nova's memory became their guiding principle. Each piece of gathered intelligence was another step towards justice. As weeks passed, their plan took shape. Not a random act of destruction, but a precisely engineered systemic collapse that would dismantle the Galactic Collective's entire infrastructure. Yanwu looked at Nova's final holographic image. "We're ready," she whispered, knowing that their journey of retribution was about to begin. The intelligence gathering phase was complete. The next stage would transform their carefully collected data into a weapon more devastating than any traditional military strike. Revenge, they had learned, was a dish best served with quantum precision. The first strike began quietly, almost invisibly. Choi Minky's fingers danced across multiple holographic interfaces, initiating a series of synchronized cyber attacks. Each digital pulse was designed with surgical precision, targeting the Galactic Collective's most vulnerable communication networks. Within moments, entire star system communication grids went dark, not dramatically but systematically, like someone slowly dimming lights across a massive complex. Yanwu watched from her command station, her expression calm and calculated. Nova's memory was etched into every strategic decision. This wasn't just an attack. It was a methodical dismantling of an entire galactic infrastructure. Kang Sioran, their cyber warfare expert, monitored incoming defensive responses. The Galactic Collective's initial reaction was predictable: confusion, followed by desperate attempts to re-establish communication channels. "Their backup systems are activating," Sioran reported. Her voice carried no emotion, just pure professional assessment. Minky's next sequence targeted agricultural distribution centers. Precision algorithms disrupted transportation networks, causing massive logistical breakdowns. Food shipments to critical planetary systems would now arrive contaminated or not arrive at all. The beauty of their strategy was its subtlety. They weren't destroying infrastructure. They were systematically undermining its functionality. Yunwook had prepared specialized viral algorithms that could penetrate even the most secure quantum communication networks. These weren't simple hacking tools. They were intelligent digital weapons that could adapt, learn, and spread undetected. "Initial phase complete," Minky announced. Yanwu's response was a simple nod. Each movement, each decision was calculated. The loss of Nova had transformed her from a diplomatic explorer into a strategic warrior. The Galactic Collective's first public response came 3 standard days later. Official communications claimed these were minor technical disruptions, the same dismissive language they had used when killing Nova. Siren intercepted and analyzed their emergency communication protocols. "They have no idea how deep our infiltration goes," she said, a rare smile crossing her face. The next stage involved targeting their industrial complexes, not with traditional weapons, but with sophisticated digital sabotage. Production lines would suddenly produce faulty equipment. Automated systems would introduce microscopic design flaws that would only become apparent after significant investment. Minky's team had spent months designing these digital infections. Each algorithm was a precision instrument, capable of causing maximum disruption with minimal direct intervention. Agricultural worlds saw crop management systems suddenly malfunction. Transportation networks experienced unexplained routing errors. Communication relays would develop intermittent but critical failures. Their strategy wasn't about immediate destruction. It was about long-term, systematic undermining of the Galactic Collective's entire operational capacity. Yanwu kept Nova's final holographic image always visible, a constant reminder of why they were doing this, not for revenge but for justice. "We're not terrorists," she had told her team repeatedly. "We're delivering a message: harm our companions, and we will dismantle your entire civilization." The first strikes were designed to be psychological as much as they were technological. Each disruption was a carefully crafted statement. Humanity would not be dismissed, would not be ignored. Galactic Collective leadership would soon realize they were facing an enemy unlike any they had encountered before. An enemy that could destroy them without firing a single traditional weapon. Sioran detected their first panic signals. Bureaucratic communication channels were becoming increasingly frantic. Reports of systemic failures were flooding their central command. "They're beginning to understand," Minky said quietly. Yunwu's eyes remained fixed on Nova's image. "This is just the beginning," she whispered. The first strikes had been executed perfectly, precise, calculated, devastating, and they were only getting started. The total war phase began with a broadcast that would be remembered across multiple star systems. Han Jiho, their diplomatic coordinator, prepared the message that would transform their private revenge into a galactic movement. On every communication channel, they played the recording of Nova's destruction, unedited, raw, and emotionally devastating. Yanwu's voice narrated the story. Not with anger, but with a cold, precise explanation of how the Galactic Collective had murdered an innocent sentient being without remorse. Park Yunji's reconnaissance team had spent months gathering supporting evidence. They compiled testimonies from other species who had suffered under the Collective's brutal regime. Each story added weight to their narrative. They weren't just seeking revenge, they were delivering justice. The broadcast went viral across thousands of star systems. Smaller civilizations, long oppressed by the Galactic Collective, saw an opportunity. Communication channels lit up with support, with offers of assistance. Yanwu's strategy was brilliant. They weren't just attacking, they were building a coalition. Military strikes began simultaneously across multiple star systems, but these weren't random attacks. Each target was chosen with surgical precision. Research facilities, communication, hubs, critical infrastructure. The Galactic Collective's response was predictable and ultimately fatal. They concentrated their defensive forces in what they believed were their most critical locations. This only made their other systems more vulnerable. Specialized teams infiltrated planetary defense systems, not to destroy, but to manipulate. Defensive weapons would suddenly fail. Communication networks would collapse. Transportation systems would redirect critical resources to useless locations. Hyunwook's digital weapons were works of art. They didn't just attack, they created chaos. Entire planetary management systems would suddenly become unreliable. Automated defenses would turn against their own installations. One by one, Galactic Collective worlds began to destabilize, not through direct destruction, but through systematic undermining of their entire operational infrastructure. Han Jiho's diplomatic work was equally critical. He reached out to marginalized species, offering them a chance to break free from the collective's control. Many had been waiting for such an opportunity for generations. "We're not conquering," Yanwu would explain in strategic meetings. "We're liberating." Park Yoonji's reconnaissance teams gathered intelligence that would have been impossible through traditional military means. They understood the collective's weaknesses better than the collective understood itself. Critical resource worlds suddenly found their production capabilities compromised. Agricultural systems failed. Industrial complexes experienced unexplained systemic failures. Each failure was carefully engineered to create maximum disruption with minimum direct intervention. The psychological warfare was perhaps their most potent weapon. The Galactic Collective had always presented itself as an invincible, perfect system. Now that image was crumbling. Communication intercepts showed increasing panic among collective leadership. Their rigid bureaucratic systems were unable to adapt to the multifaceted attacks. Yanwu kept Nova's memory at the center of every strategy. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about sending a message about the value of life, of companionship, of empathy. Smaller star systems began to rebel. The coalition grew stronger with each passing day. What had started as a personal mission of revenge was transforming into a galactic liberation movement. The collective's response became increasingly desperate. Military strikes became more frequent but less coordinated. They were fighting an enemy they couldn't understand, an enemy that didn't follow traditional warfare rules. Hyunwook's team continued to develop more sophisticated digital weapons. Each algorithm was a precision instrument capable of causing maximum disruption with minimal direct intervention. "We're not destroying," Yanwu would explain. "We're dismantling a system that has no respect for life." As weeks turned into months, the Galactic Collective's grip on power began to crumble, not through traditional military defeat, but through a systematic, calculated destruction of their entire operational infrastructure. Nova's memory remained their guiding principle, a reminder of why they fought, a symbol of the life they were fighting to protect. The total war was more than a military campaign. It was a statement about humanity's capacity for justice, for precise and calculated response. And they were just getting started. The dust of war settled slowly across multiple star systems. What remained of the Galactic Collective was nothing more than scattered remnants of a once powerful civilization. Kwon Seojun arrived as the primary diplomatic negotiator, carrying with him a comprehensive reconstruction plan. But this wasn't about rebuilding the old system. It was about creating something entirely new. Yanwu stood at the center of the transformation. The woman who had started this journey as a diplomatic explorer was now a legend. The person who had systematically dismantled an entire galactic power structure because of a single act of cruelty. The memorial for Nova became more than just a monument. It transformed into a symbol of hope for countless species who had suffered under the collective's brutal regime. Located on a neutral space station, the memorial showed a simple holographic representation of the creature that had started it all. Survivors from hundreds of star systems began to gather. They shared stories of oppression, of hope, of liberation. What had begun as Yanwu's personal revenge had become a galactic movement of transformation. The new interstellar accord was unlike anything previously conceived. It wasn't just a political agreement, it was a fundamental reimagining of how different species could coexist. Protections for sentient beings, regardless of their form, became the primary foundation. Companionship is not weakness, Yanwu would explain during diplomatic sessions. It is our greatest strength. Kwon Seojun's diplomatic team worked tirelessly. They didn't just negotiate, they rebuilt entire communication frameworks. Species that had been isolated for generations now found themselves part of a larger, more inclusive galactic community. The technologies developed during the conflict became instruments of healing. Hyunwook's digital systems, once weapons of destruction, now helped reconnect isolated planetary systems. Communication networks that had been weaponized now became bridges between civilizations. Humanity's reputation transformed overnight. They were no longer seen as just another spacefaring species. They became symbols of justice, of precise and calculated response to cruelty. Smaller star systems that had been oppressed for generations now found themselves with unprecedented opportunities. Educational exchanges, technological sharing, and collaborative development became the new standard. The memorial for Nova became a pilgrimage site. Scientists, diplomats, and citizens from across the galaxy would come to understand the story of a single creature that had sparked a revolution. Yanwu rarely spoke about the conflict. When she did, her words were measured, precise. She explained it not as a war, but as a necessary transformation. We didn't destroy a civilization, she would say. We liberated potential. The economic systems that emerged were radically different. No longer based on exploitation, they focused on mutual growth, on understanding, on compassion. The brutal efficiency of the old galactic collective was replaced by a more nuanced, collaborative approach. Hyunwook's team continued to develop technologies that would help reconnect and rebuild. What had been weapons of war became instruments of healing and communication. Every year, on the anniversary of Nova's destruction, species across the galaxy would gather. They would remember not just the conflict, but the principles that had emerged from it. Kwon Seojun helped draft new communication protocols. These weren't just diplomatic agreements. They were fundamental reimaginings of how different species could interact with respect and understanding. The transformation wasn't just external. It was deeply personal for every species involved. Yanwu would sometimes look at Nova's memorial, remembering the creature that had started everything. What had seemed like a personal loss had become a galactic transformation. We didn't just win a war, she would quietly tell her closest associates. We changed how civilizations understand each other. The stars seemed to shine a little brighter. The silence between worlds was now filled with possibility, with hope, with the understanding that compassion could be the most powerful weapon of all. And it had all started with the loss of a single, extraordinary companion.